and gentlemen, I'm meadsy69. Welcome back to the channel. Now, in today's video, we are going to look at what is one of the lowest win rate tanks in the game, and it's been the lowest, or one of the lowest, if not the lowest win rate tank in the game for a very, very long time. Now, back in the day, people used to say that this tank was overpowered. I've never said that it's overpowered. I don't think it's ever been overpowered. It's fun, but it's also the most frustrating tank in the game. And looking at the stats, people just don't perform well in it, but it is one of the most popular tanks in the game. Now, of course, we could be talking about the one and only Death Star, one of the most talked about tanks in the game. Now, why is this tank one of the most talked about tank in the game? Why does everybody want it when no one really performs well in this tank? Well, basically, it's the alpha. You know, it's just the alpha. That is the only reason people want the tank. Now, back in the day, you used to be able to sit at the back of the map and snipe and not get spotted and deal 7,000 damage. Nowadays, you can't really do that because the camo is not that great. You could be spotted a mile away. However, it is still a fun tank to play, but it was also the most frustrating tank in the game to play. It's only one of a few tanks that you could take out into the game and you could deal 8,000 damage very, very easily. But it's also one of the only tanks in the game that you could take out and you could get ripped at any moment. Like within a minute of the game, you could just be ripped apart. And that is mainly because people will focus you. You're in a Death Star. You've got the highest alpha gun in the game. You could do 1,625 alpha per shot, or at most, the highest shot with Hesh. So people are going to want to focus you, especially if a Batchat, you know, or a Leopard 1 comes and they spot you. They are going to want to kill you because they know that you can deal a hell of a lot of damage to them. So people will focus you. Now, over the last 90 days, this has currently around 48% win rate. That is quite low. There's a lot of people playing it. It has always been one of the most popular tanks in the game to play. It's always been up there right at the top with the amount of people that are playing this tank. But yeah, some people just don't perform well. And I'm not even talking about good people, like good players. They could be good players and still do 0 damage. It is one of those. If you bounce your shot or if you miss your shot, then it could be game over. And that is a lot of the time why people don't perform well. People are sometimes greedy. So some people don't want to sit at the back of the map. Some people want to get around, you know, they want to get close and they want to scare the enemy tanks, which is fine to do, but you got to do it right. So looking at the stats, I mean, the stats on it, considering its high reload, is not that bad. 2,800. And of course, that is with us running calibrated shells because of that Hesh. You definitely have to run calibrated shells on this tank. You've got a 20-second reload, so that is a long time. So always make sure when you are driving this, you have some form of cover, because if you don't, and a little Object 260 or a little Leopard 1 comes in front of you, or even now a TVP comes in front of you, they are going to deal a whole magazine. They are going to deal like 1,500 to 2,000 damage to you before you have even reloaded. And if you get caught out and you miss your shot and they track you, then you might as well just wave goodbye. You might as well throw your device out the window because you're not going to be able to do nothing. So DPM isn't that bad. So the penetration is 315 on your standard AP, which is very, very good. But also your HE, your Hesh, is 242 millimeters. So basically, your Hesh is almost the same as the medium's normal pen. Yeah, you can penetrate Hesh, and that is what this tank is all about, that Hesh. If you don't play this tank for the Hesh, you're playing it wrong. You have to play it for Hesh. I don't even run that cheaper HE because it's pointless. Yes, it does the same alpha, it costs less, but it has a lot less penetration. So I just don't even see the point in playing that cheap HE. Your damage, you got a 930 alpha gun, 1300 on your HE, and of course 1300 on your other HE. But again, with a high roll, you can get that to 1625. Yes, a big amount of damage. The highest alpha, of course, in the whole game. Aim time, of course, is pretty bad at 4.9, same as the gun dispersion at 0.389. Only has 5 degrees of gun depression, and the speed is only 34 miles per hour. So yeah, it's always been, no matter how good it used to be, it's always been one of those tanks that you either love it or you hate it. Well, it's not even that. One day you might love it, one day you might hate it. One day the RNG might be on your side, the next day it might not. Or even battles. Like I've just literally had one game. I haven't played it in I haven't played it in a while. But it's one of those that you can roll out on it and you could do maybe one shot and then you're dead. But also, it's one of that tanks where you can go out and you can surprise yourself and do 7, 8, 9,000 damage. As long as you've got the shots. And it's not only that, but you've got to try and position yourself well. Now, if you go with the heavies and you sit behind the heavies, you've got to remember, you're going to have heavies in front of you. So a lot of them, IS-4 or IS-7s, you will be able to penetrate with HE, but in certain positions, like their lower plate at an angle. If they're sort of facing up on a ridge, you might be able to get their lower plate. Same as E100s, their lower plate. But you can't just rely on shooting heavy lower plates. You need to get yourself into a position where you can comfortably penetrate them. Which is why this match I have decided to go left with my medium tanks. Now we have one medium, one light tank. The enemy have 2 mediums. So I'm thinking, you know what, I'm best off going with the mediums, because if a medium does open up, I can get a massive HE shot into him, dealing a lot of damage very, very early on. Now, unfortunately, I knew that the T-22 was going to be there. I didn't know that the Sheridan is going to sit right in front of me. Now, I do go for the HE there, because I thought I might have been able to penetrate the lower plate. And again, that is the thing with this tank. Not always you do that much damage, but sometimes if you do splash, you can still do sort of 500-600 damage, which is exactly what we've done there. So in my opinion, it was still worth it. If I would have shot AP, there was a chance that I could have ammo racked him at that angle, but there's also a chance with it being the T-22, I may have bounced my shot. So I thought, you know, I'm still going to go for the HE. So most of the times that you play the Death Star, you're not even going to use the AP. I mean, here we're going to use the AP. Well, we're going to try. Unfortunately, the T-22 just backs up in time. But what I normally do with this, if you're not on a map like Dead Rail, I mean, Dead Rail, yeah, I sit at the back because you can farm. Same as Castilla, I sit at the back because you can farm. But a map like this, what I normally tend to do is, instead of coming in front of the enemy, come to the side of the enemy. You know, I've just come to around with my mediums. I managed to get the shot off on the T-22, and I managed to get sort of almost 1,300 damage done to the FE4005. And now them two are gone. Well, the T-22's gone elsewhere, but now them two are away. I can then come in sidewards, and this is the kind of position that you want to be at. Now, Minotauro there, 1,366. Thank you very much. 3 shots, 3,000 damage. Average just over 1,000 damage per shot. We're not done yet. We're still full hit points, and there is still 3 excuse me. There is still 3 tanks left alive. So, of course, I'm going to ignore that E50. I was going to leave my mediums to deal with him. Hello, Mr. FV215B. And yeah, almost goodbye. That is another 1,200 damage. So that is now 4 shots, 4,400 damage. So we've now averaged 1,100 damage per shot. Crazy, considering this is a 900 alpha gun, just over, to average 1,100, you'll get this a lot. Hello, Mouse, and thank you for your hit points. So that is now 5 shots, 5.6k damage. So we've increased our average shots per our average damage per shot, and it made it look easy. You're not always going to have games like this. I mean, 5 shots, 5.5k damage. You're not always going to have matches like this. I mean, I didn't even get looked at. No one even looked at me. Didn't really lose a single hit point. But again, I got that damage because of the position I put myself in. Get around. I always say that, surprise them, because sometimes on maps where there are tank destroyer spots, people would expect a Death Star to be there. So do the unexpected. Be somewhere that they don't expect you to be. And even so, if you're in a position that they don't expect you to be, they might come around the corner not even thinking that you're there, and boom, they're going to have a fright. So it is a mega fun tank. Can potentially be one of the most fun tanks in the game to play, but also one of the worst, because it is frustrating when you miss because of that RNG, the accuracy, the aim time. You will miss your shots. You're not going to hit everything, trust me. But let me know your thoughts on the Death Star. For years and years and years, well, I say that makes it sound like 20, 30 years, but for at least 9 years, this tank has been the longest running, worst performing tank in the game, and it still currently is. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I'm meadsy69, and I will catch you all soon. Bye-bye.